High-end PCs are pretty damn awesome, right? They can perform real-time ray tracing, they can calculate immense sums of information, and on top of that they can game at 4K. And hey, they even look pretty damn awesome to go into the bargain. But that's what today is not about. In fact, I get it. Sometimes you really just can't afford something high-end and are more focused on getting a PC up and running and then working out the details later on. And that's where this comes in. This is the Ryzen 3 3200G, a quad-core APU with integrated graphics from AMD, and well, quite a nice little piece of kit. So, let's get into it. So, for a meager sum of 70 to 90 or so pounds, you of course get yourselves a Ryzen 3 3200G. Yeah, a bit of variance region to region. But granted, this is about double the cost of an Athlon 3000G, but on the other hand, it's still a lot cheaper than any Ryzen 5 that you might be able to find out there, including the 1600AF. Now, the real question then is it worth that price? I mean, you know, it's pretty damn cheap as far as stuff goes, but it's still kind of pricey for a budget CPU, considering the Athlon 3000G is what, 40 bucks? Whereas this, of course, closer to the 70 to 90 buck margin. That's quite a huge increase. But what do you get in the box then? Well, you get your 4 cores, a 3.6 GHz base clock speed, a 4.0 GHz turbo speed, integrated, what is it, Vega 8? I think it's Vega 8. Yes, Vega 8 integrated graphics, a 65 watt TDP, and thrown into the bargain, of course, you get a lovely stock cooler, so you don't have to worry about buying one of them too. So all in all, that isn't actually really that bad. Now, of course, generally speaking, anything with an integrated graphics solution, well, is going to be somewhat beaten, blown away by any reasonable discrete graphics solution, but what can this little puppy do? I mean, you've still got 4 cores here, which is no laughing matter in itself. Remember when, just a couple of years ago, 4 cores was all that you actually got. So, you've got 4 cores, and you've actually got really decent integrated graphics, because of course these are Ryzen APUs. They're not like the Intel integrated graphics where HD or, if you're lucky, Iris graphics. You know, these are proper full-blown iGPUs on this. And what it's mainly really 2 biggest strengths for, one, using it in a HTPC where you've got, of course, almost no room, so therefore you might not even have space for a graphics card, in which case this is pretty damn powerful on its own. But if you are building your own gaming rig, the other thing that this would really excel at is being a stopgap solution. Say you're building your PC and of course you just want something up and running now and you will buy a discrete graphics card later on when you can afford it. Or alternatively, you could use this as part of a stopgap solution where you build your PC, you put in one of these so you can get up and running for now, and then later on down the line, once you've got a bit more money to spend, you can go ahead and buy a discrete graphics card. Meaning that, granted, you're no longer using the iGPU on this, but you're still using a quad core, which is actually pretty damn capable. For me personally, I actually bought this to replace my i7 4790K, also I was saving up the money to actually get my 3950X as a sort of stopgap solution myself. I mean, I already had a decent graphics card, plus it's not too bad. I already had a decent graphics card, plus not to mention it's pretty damn cheap. You know, 4 cores, granted they're not hyper-rated, but they're still 4 cores, and I'm not going to complain at that. Considering that it's still well under $100 compared to like 700 and something bucks, you know, for a 3950X. Yeah, I'm still paying a bit of, a fair chunk of change on it. But here's the thing, it's a good APU, meaning that even if I had issues whatsoever, you know, in the future or anything, it means that if, say, a chip died, I've got something to rely on in the meantime. Or, worst case scenario, if I'm having issues with something, it means I've got something that I can troubleshoot thanks to the integrated graphics on this. Or, hell, who knows, I might just build a HTPC at some point and then I can use this as the base for it. So you're probably all wondering by now, Chrissy, just how does it perform? Tell us already. Well, we'll get to that right now. Of course, performing the usual multitude of tests to go ahead and get some good performance metrics for this, and, well, might as well jump straight into them. So, starting with OCCT then, and of course my famous burn-in test, we got CPU and GPU temps of 68.5 degrees Celsius, with an average FPS at the 1080p, with 16 FPS and of course a speed of 4 GHz. Now, that doesn't sound too impressive on the 16 FPS, especially when you compare it to 140 on a GTX 1080, but we're talking about a GTX 1080 there. It's a bit unfair to compare that to a 1080. And of course, on top of that, that's 68.5 degrees Celsius. That was using the stock cooler that it's shipped with. That's really not bad at all. Moving over to 3D Mark then, in Firestrike we got a graphics score of 3106, a physics score of 8863, you can see you've got a lot of headroom there as far as CPU power goes, a combined score of 999, a total score of 2789. All in all, a pretty respectful performance considering that it is just an APU by itself. In Time Spy then, we saw a graphics score of 962, a physics score of 3259, and of course a total score of 1075. Again, a pretty respectable performance all around. Next in our Cinebench benchmarks, well, in R15 we got an OpenGL average FPS of 70.82 FPS, a reference match of 98%, we got 611 in our multi-threaded score and 158 in our single-threaded score, of course, scaling nicely there. Over in R20 we saw a multi-threaded score of 1547, yes that is 1547, and a single-threaded score of 404. Over in some gaming then, in Tomb Raider we saw a fairly respectable and playable experience at 1080p with a minimum FPS of 40, a maximum FPS of 62, a very respectable average FPS of 50.3. All in all, a pretty playable experience that also looks kind of pretty too considering that it's medium 1080p settings without a graphics card. Dirt Rally also told a very similar story of its results, hitting 51.42 FPS in its minimums, 71.26 FPS in its maximums, and a solid 62.02 FPS for its average frame rate. Pretty respectable and perfectly playable experience if you ask me, on a chip that costs less than £100. Over on the War Thunder Pacific Day benchmark, a very playable experience was shown off by the 3200G, averaging 92.8 FPS, hitting a minimum of 66.8 FPS, which means in this title at least, if you pair this APU with a 60Hz TV or monitor, you won't even be able to see any frame drops whatsoever. So again, that's kind of incredible considering this APU, that is both your graphics and your CPU, are under £100. Finally then, in GTA 5, the 2013 treat that always keeps on punishing modern hardware. Well, with this we did see some greater variety in frame rates, hitting as low as 15 FPS on the minimums and hitting as high as 99.1 FPS on the maximums. And we did see it averaging around 52 FPS, which ain't too bad. And when you put it in context with just how many frames were over 30 FPS, well, it's pretty incredible, with 5,955 out of 5,958 frames per second, well, frames, or 99.95% of all frames rendered were rendered faster than 30 FPS. You're literally talking about 0.05% of frames were below 30 FPS, which is kind of incredible there. Meaning that this chip at least is managing to somewhat outperform the original Xbox One and PS4 by itself in GTA 5, which I honestly almost cannot believe. So what can I say other than I am genuinely pretty damned impressed at what this cheap and cheerful chip can actually do. Whether it be delivering a console-like gaming experience by itself, matching it up with a, pretty decent graphics card like my GTX 1080 and using it for a good few weeks, and it gaming like a champ there, or even using it for production work, because, again, granted, there are better chips for it, there are chips that you should go for, but if you are stuck with something that you just need up and running now, and you want to save more of that money for a better CPU later, this is also a really good choice. I mean, hell, of course my channel was running throughout those weeks, and of course you wouldn't even notice that I was actually running on an APU for a while. It's kind of impressive by itself. And even on top of that, on day-to-day usage, especially when you're using dual channel, in my case all 4 DIMM slots populated, it's really pretty damn snappy. It's perfectly usable. You can go ahead and open up multiple tabs, surf the internet, watch YouTube 4K, maybe play a couple of games. Either way, it's perfectly usable and still pretty good at multitasking thanks to the fact that it still has 4 cores. So, should you buy it, or better yet, who is it actually for? Well, if you're building a budget PC and you need a stopgap solution so you can go ahead and, get up and running now, and then buy yourself a fancier graphics card later, maybe a 2060 or a 1650 Super, or a 1660 Ti, whatever you prefer. Maybe a RX 5600 XT. Then of course, this little chip here would be a wonderful choice for you, as it means that you'll be up and running in no time. On top of that, you'll have a pretty nice, console experience, especially if this is your first PC and you've moved from console to PC. This would actually be a pretty nice introduction, considering the fact that you might be able to build your PC for less than you originally bought your console. Alternatively, you could also use this as a part of a very small form factor HD PC, or even just as the base for a HD PC in general, thanks to the fact that it's got a fairly powerful APU built into it. You could either, 1, use it as it is, go ahead and build a very small form factor case and be quite happy with it, or 2, again, if you want to use it as a stopgap solution, it's great for that. And on top of that, the thermals are perfectly well under control, thanks to the fact that it uses relatively low power compared to its more core-heavy brethren. As we know, the 3950X is 16 cores, literally 4 of them glued together, plus hyper-threading. And finally, if you're someone like me that just wants something that will get the job done for now, or better yet, have a backup when things turn sour, honestly, I can't recommend the 3200G enough. Whether you want a backup, whether you want just a good chip, or something fun to play with, it's a really good chip, and I'd recommend this to absolutely everyone. If you can get your hands on one and just have it just for those special occasions, or should I call them the worst case occasions, like a break glass in case of emergency, this is the perfect CPU for it, because it will always seem to get the job done and get it done well enough that you can't complain. And considering that you get pretty damn reasonable GPU and CPU performance for under $100, what else is there to say other than it's a brilliant chip, and I absolutely love it. So, that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave this video. Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Links to what was featured today down in the description below, and as well as of course all the links to my Facebook, Patreon and Twitch page. And if you really do like seeing stuff like this, maybe support me on Patreon so I can go ahead and buy more stuff like this to showcase to you guys, and get some more information out. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell for more stuff from me, and as always, this is the 117th Con signing off. Stay safe out there, folks, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, stay safe.